Thank you.
Hello. Thank you.
For joining us. Now, I know this is going to sound like a little bit of a silly question, but for the uninitiated in the audience, can you explain to us what is Roblox?
Sure. So I would describe Roblox as a massive, interactive social 3D platform. So it uses gaming technology. When you go into Roblox, you have a 3D avatar. You design your own avatar, you dress your avatar, put makeup and accessories on it, and then you appear in millions of different virtual worlds as your avatar. So you have a consistent set of friends, there's a consistent economy and currency, but you can explore completely different experiences with that same identity. And it's very large. We have 70 million daily active users. In the United States, more than half of the under 13 population is on the platform. This is where children get together. This is the safe online place. And around the world, we're active in 80 countries. We have people speaking 40 different human languages on the platform. And all of the content has been created by the players themselves. So we have something like 15 million different 3D experiences, all created by users.
Blimey. And I suppose Roblox is really unique among a lot of online platforms insofar as it's actually built primarily for younger audiences. And in the time that it's been around, those audiences have grown up and also older users have joined as well. I guess, is there a tension between creating a community that can sort of service the needs of both of those different demographics, but primarily, how do you safeguard younger users when there are older users also on the platform?
Terrific question. So Roblox is for everybody. It was always for everybody. What we found is because of the style of graphics and the 3D interaction, early in our history, and we shipped first in 2005. So we've been doing this for quite some time. So because of the sort of 3D interaction and building toy nature, it was originally adopted in large part by younger children, under 13. And they created great content. Because of that population, we innovated really extensively on safety. So we have every single interaction, every piece of content is moderated. Today, it's all moderated by AI in a first pass, and then we have sort of a human fallback to that. And that community over time, as you say, they stuck with the platform. Our sort of first couple generations of users have grown up on the platform. Many of the top developers are now people who learned to do programming, to do 3D modeling on Roblox, and now their career is creating content for the environment they were in as children. But we're seeing most of our growth now is actually in the 17 to 24-year-old market is our most rapidly growing area. And so what's happening is because the content is all created by the users, they're creating content appropriate for their age group or for their demographic or their culture. So we now have content ratings, we have different moderation settings, we have age validation. And so it's a combination of technologies that largely empowered by AI because it's what allows us to specialize to every individual user. We have technology to make sure that if you're in a more vulnerable population, that you can have a stronger degree of safety and protection. And if you're in a less vulnerable population, then you can have a greater degree of personal expression. So for example, if you're going into a mature rated environment, we might allow different kinds of things like alcohol consumption that we wouldn't allow in an under 13 environment.
Okay. I guess as any parent or carer in the audience will know, these younger generations, they use slang, abbreviation, and phrases. They communicate in ways that aren't always clear to older people exactly what they're talking about. Meaning, I guess, a lot of potentially problematic interactions could slip through those cracks, but Roblox is using multimodal AI to catch some of that. Could you tell us a little bit about those?
Exactly. So this is really important. Different populations, part of the way that you distinguish your in-group is by developing a common language and a common slang. And sometimes that can evolve really rapidly. So we've all seen sort of, whether it's new trends in the news or new memes, but especially younger populations will really rapidly adopt new concepts and new language. And one of the things that's been really important to moving from traditional natural language processing algorithms to data-driven machine learning AI-based systems for all of our moderation is that it's able to be dynamic. So it's able to catch those either language drift or intentional adoption of new techniques, as well as specializing to different populations. One of the things that we found is really important as we've deployed AI technology, and in particular for human communication, there are two different forms that we process. One is text communication, so this is like you're typing text, and the other is voice. And right now we restrict voice only to verified older users as well as an extra safety layer. But both of those are processed in real time with AI moderation. And one of the things that we've found was really important was to build and train our own models for moderation, because models trained on content from a different population or from a particular source weren't able to generalize to the richness and diversity across the Roblox audience. So by building our own models, by training them on our own data, and then by continuously updating our models, we're able to catch those sort of changes in language, to catch the changes in communication and connotation. And now what we're starting to do is we've just rolled out natural language translation for text for 16 languages, and it's all pairs. So that's 240 combinations of languages. And so in real time, you can type in one language like Portuguese, and then I can see it in another like Korean. And we found that, so we're processing a lot of chat. In 2003, we had 2.4 billion text messages per day. So we're talking about trillions of messages per year. And when we rolled out the natural language translation, we found that about a third of them people choose to have translated. So that's a tremendous amount more human communication we're enabling. And by doing that, we need to be careful about things that might be okay in one language that under a literal translation might not be okay in another language. So by having safety models that are multilingual, that are multimodal, that understand, you're describing an image even though it's in text, this is super important in specializing to our audience and making sure that for Roblox users, they're always getting the best protection possible.
Is moderating voice, the spoken word in terms of using AI, that must be enormously challenging just given the speed and inflection and...
It is. It's a challenge that we had set out a couple of years back to do moderation of voice. And it was part of whenever we make any new feature, part of the plan from day one is how do we provide safety and privacy for that feature. So voice chat as a technology, even within 3D as we do it, so there's your voice falls off in 3D, and then we're starting to simulate things like echoes, and with a multi-user environment, so you have this sort of quadratic combination of players as well. That's a technology that largely from the gaming industry was already well understood and deployed. And we were very slow to adopt it because we needed to do so in a way that provided safety and then privacy of those messages if they're private. So when we were able to use AI technology for the classifiers for that, and we do the voice safety in an interesting way. It's not just that we might take action if there's content that's inappropriate in voice. It's that we give feedback to the user. We actually show up and pop up a message telling them, hey, what you've just said was really not appropriate in this context, and we're going to mute you for 5 seconds so you can think about what you just said and think about another way of framing it. But what we're trying to do there is steer behaviors in a positive direction rather than be punitive. And so we have a hierarchy of responses. And what we hope is that most users will respond to that. And this is the data we've seen to those UI specialists we call a nudge. And the people would respond in a positive way because we want to enable more communication, not shut down communication. But all of those problems with text, the different languages, the nuance, the regional differences, those are multiplied in voice by, it's just a larger amount of data. The raw bit rate you're sending to the server is higher. And so you need to build technology for processing it more efficiently. But then you add in nuance like tone, sarcasm comes across in different ways, even just the timing and the context, especially in a multi-user environment. So there are comments that might be acceptable in one context, but if they're in direct response to a different statement, might suddenly have a different flavor. And so all of that is the kind of information that we're feeding into our models and training on iteratively to get better and better.
Okay. Are there any other sort of applications that could apply to different systems or other apps?
So I would say a huge focus of what we've done, and I think what's really important for the industry overall, is efficiency. So it's easy to focus on quality. It's easy to focus on really magical experiences that we've all had with AI, especially generative AI in the last couple of years. But what's important to remember is that to really deliver value, right, to really both build your own business and create a platform that people want to engage with, it has to solve a real problem and it has to be cost effective. And that's a huge difference between delivering a technology preview or a demo and delivering technology that's integral to a platform. And many of Roblox's innovations have been on the quality side. We're doing many things that no one has done before for 3D, especially generative 3D. But many of our other advances have actually been on the efficiency side, that we've deployed about 14 different discrete AI technologies in the last year, and all of them are scalable. All of them are running across, we have 135 servers around the world, we're sort of hyperscale. So we've had to figure out how do you deploy these technologies so that they're memory efficient, so they use the processor well, so that they minimize bandwidth. In some cases, we've deployed AI directly on mobile devices, so that's an extreme optimization. And when you talk about, for example, we said those 2.4 billion text messages a day, you're getting to the point of, you're talking about trillions of messages per year. And then if you think about our 3D events, which are happening at 60 times a second, and multiply it by the 70 million users, you easily get up to sort of petascale computing. And when you're talking about this 10 to the 15th, and then you suddenly put a currency next to it, you realize, wow, we need to have every individual action be maybe 100 times more efficient than it is for some off-the-shelf commercial solution. And so as a result, we've made both the memory side, the compute side, and the bandwidth side of all of our models extremely optimized, as well as the quality, and we've tuned for trade-offs between those. And so a lot of the innovations that we did on text, that we did on voice, we're applying to generative AI as well, because these are all transformer-based models under the covers. And so we're able to bring that cost efficiency to the point where we can make it cost-effective to have everybody use generative AI for 3D creation now.
I think a lot of the cultural conversation around the metaverse, for want of a better term, is kind of that people either don't get it or don't understand it. What do you think is the, solution to make the metaverse more of a thing?
So one of the things that's been great about Roblox is our community. From day one, not just the content has been driven by the community, but many of the features have been driven by community feedback. So we meet with all of our developer community once a year. We have in person. We have online forums. We have developer relations. And almost everything we do is driven by a distinct need from either the player community or the creator community, which overlap heavily. And our goal is to make it so that every player is a creator. So I think moving forward, that asset, the creator community, is really what will continue to drive AI development at Roblox. It's not so much, it's not that we have an AI solution looking for a problem. It's that we're challenged by our creator community, and we respond with the best tool for the job, which frequently today is going to be AI.
Cool. I was going to say, how do you feel that sort of multimodal communication will look in 10 years? Will we still be talking about terms like the metaverse, or is that going to be part of a hype cycle that's rapidly forgotten?
Yeah, and I'm going to say I love the term metaverse in its original sort of science fiction way. And it's been used as such a branding term that we steer away from it today, but I think the original intent of multi-user, pervasive global systems is exactly the Roblox vision. And probably the closest physical analog is that it's just, it's like a shopping mall, right? But for software. So anything that you could want to do, anyone you could want to interact with in sort of one environment, much like a 3D analog of the web. So that direction is the one that I think we're always going to continue to pursue, but it gets steered in many, many different ways.
Okay, cool. Just wondering to hand it over to the audience if anyone has any particular questions. Okay, gentleman in the red there, if you wouldn't mind standing up, telling us what your name is, where you come from.
Hi, I'm Ricardo Cuervo. I'm the father of a 5-year-old daughter, and social platforms, gaming and all this really scares me. Mm-hmm. My question is, imagine that you have your best friend, he has a 5-year-old daughter, and he asks you, at what age should I allow my daughter to go on Roblox and why?
Excellent. So what age should you let your children participate in online environments? So as a parent myself, I think that's an individual choice for a parent based on your child and your approach to parenting. What we've done at Roblox is made sure that because all the interactions are strongly moderated, and as I said, for younger users, we tip heavily towards safety instead of freedom of expression. So we're extremely conservative. It's a platform that I felt very comfortable having my own children on at a time when I felt like I didn't want them in other online environments yet, because it's protecting them, it's protecting their identity strongly. But I think it's an individual choice at what age you think it's appropriate for your child.
Okay. Gentleman in the red just at the front here.
Hi, I'm Aaron. I'm from Bud Financial. Could I ask a question on the training data that you use for your content moderation? Is this data from kids under 13? How do you get informed consent from children for your training data for content moderation?
So for all of our generative AI work, we've been extremely transparent and extremely open with the developer community and the player community. And everything has to have explicit permission in order to train on it, because since all of the content on Roblox is user created, it's the case that we consider them to be the rights holders, not us, and so we have to ask them if we want to train on their data. I'm very appreciative that a vast majority of cases people have chosen to give permission because they understand that we're using that data in order to create tools for them. On the safety side, we're always moderating. Originally, we were using traditional natural language processing, traditional computer vision, and manual moderation, and now we've moved to AI. So that's a case where the data that we can use it's never going to leave Roblox, and it's all been anonymized because we have very strong privacy controls. So we can't even tell what user said something. So that data is a little bit different because that's a classic internal analytics problem of we already had to look at that data in order to make the system safe. And so there are ways that we can aggregate that data, make sure it preserves all the PII, and then we can use that to make the platform more safe. But we never would mix moderation data with generative AI data because one stays inside the company and is never seen by others, and the other one, the whole intent is to produce new content that goes outside.
Gentleman at the front.
Hello, my name's Ali. I'm an IP and tech lawyer. I had a question. It's related on verification. Mm-hmm. When I was growing up and I was a kid and I'd go on a website that was supposed to only be used, or a game that was only supposed to be used by people over 18, it would say, are you over 18? I'd click, yes, I am over 18. Obviously, more and more now, you see dangers of that sort of activity, and you see technology as a way of verifying whether someone is over 18 or not. I was wondering, firstly, are you using technology to verify people's age? And secondly, are you using AI as part of that technology to verify individuals' age?
Great. So our AI, our age verification technology is based on government IDs. We are using a variety of technologies in Human Moderator to validate the ID itself, but we're essentially following what today is the gold standard. one of the things that I think would be really valuable for both nations and regional conglomerates is standards for this. So the problem is every company has to adopt their own ID verification technology. And much like we've managed to standardize globally on things like passports, having standardized age validation in a way that doesn't require necessarily revealing all of your identity, or depending on an individual company to be able to validate ID from arbitrary governments would be really helpful. But because the need is currently sort of beyond where the current validation is, that's why we said we want to be really conservative, really careful about this. So unless we're certain that you have a valid ID and that it's really you as the ID holder, we default to treating you as if you're under 13.
What would you say are the biggest challenges facing Roblox in the next 5 to 10 years?
So growth has been really interesting for us. Because it's user-generated content, and because we've embraced so many platforms. So Roblox runs everywhere. It's one of the only platforms where a developer can create not just an app, but a 3D app, so the most sophisticated form of content creation, and instantly ship it on Apple mobile devices, on Android, on desktop, on consoles, on VR headsets. There's a tremendous amount of content going to a tremendous amount of users on a tremendous amount of platforms. And what that means is sort of we have a testing and compatibility matrix that's bigger than any company has ever faced before. I gave the analogy of it's like the 3D web, and it really is that sort of how do you produce standardized content when I don't even know if the user has a touch screen or a mouse. Maybe they're in VR. So I think accommodating that we expect more devices to come out, we expect more people to join the platform, we expect more people to create. So being able to manage that growth both on the stability side, so we've dramatically increased our server-side infrastructure, our reliability. We're adding in terms of 3 nines, 4 nines, we're adding a 9 to our reliability every year. Just to handle the load, but then also looking at ways to sort of generalize user interfaces. So for example, it's not just user chat that is translated. If you create a 3D experience and you have things like exit signs or a sign that says shop, that will automatically be localized to the environment that every player is in. That was something that throughout most of the entertainment industry, that's done by hand. It's very expensive. It's one of the reasons it's very expensive to release in a different country or different region. We've automated that. We've automated the avatar setup. In fact, we have a really nice video of that we can show. Can you cue up Mark, if you can cue up the avatar auto setup. This is an example of one of the ways that we need to scale is to make it easier to make 3D content. The most expensive part of creating an avatar is not actually making the outer shape. It's making it come alive by rigging up the bones, connecting what's called the skin to the surface so that it moves correctly, and then making it work with different animations and with clothing. All of which is a much more mechanical process. It's less creative than the avatar shape itself, but is really time consuming. And just a few weeks ago, we released one of the first tools to automate that entire pipeline. So we can see that here. So that kind of scaling both on the tools to let individual developers scale up, and then the infrastructure side so that the back end can scale up. I would say that's the number one challenge we are focused on right now. And it's all about AI.
AI at the heart of everything. Okay, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for. So thank you so much for your time.
Awesome, thank you.
Fascinating stuff, thank you.